if you remember, earlier we talked about the vast motivation of Mahayana and the vast method of the Tantrayana. The vast motivation, we have been talking about, motivation, mainly the motivation of enlightening all sentient beings, which will be again taught today quite extensively because we are going to touch the subject of bodhichitta. Vast method or the skill of the Tantra is things like visualization, like when we talk about the visualization of the refuge tree in front of you. The refuge mandalas and all these mandalas, unfortunately, have created some kind of an idea that Tantra talks about something very mystical world. Depending on what we mean by mystical,
Mystical, you mean?
very secret or supernatural, depending on what we mean by that. But it's important to know that it's actually nothing, not arbitrary, not like surrealistic. It's not surrealistic at all. Not realistic, but something like a heavenly. Buddhas and bodhisattvas are right in front of us, as this flower is right in front of us. But of course, our weakness, there's so many different kinds of weakness. Just to name the few, we have a weakness of overly believing in believable things. We also have the weakness of overly not believing in things that is unbelievable. So our mind is so small. It's really, really, really small. But in our own world, we think we are really, really sophisticated, and we are. Just like when you notice in a place like a country like India, who boasts 300 main language, out of which 21 language has literatures like Tolstoy's and Dostoevsky translated into 21 different Indian language. This very sophisticated. In one way, it's impressive, but on the other hand, it's nothing special. We have Chinese have how many vowels? Vowel. Okay, Chinese have 4 vowels.
Like tunes.
Yeah. I think the Indians have 5. Cats, I think, have only 2. But cats can communicate very well among themselves. And it's really impressive that with 2 vowels, 2 vowels they can actually get by. We are complete idiot. We have to use 4 or 5. So we have a very limited, even though we think we have so much vast quality and the language and the civilization, it's very limited. So we overly believe that this exists. We overly not believe that Manjushri is sitting on this table right now with his right leg on the top of left leg. Like the Indians sort of, and humming a tune. And sometimes, like, throwing his hair back because it sort of, comes in front.
Pumping.
Just overly not believe.
To this.
Just this kind of way, because it's not believable that he's sitting there. This is where the Tantra is so good. Because the Tantra really actually is one of the greatest way to decipher, uncode, the code of matrix. To you and me, we have a very limited matrix of this as a flower. That's it. For a goat, matrix is different. Something very yummy, I guess. So, I'm telling you this because one of the challenge for the practitioner who has been introduced to traditions such as the Ngondo, or the, not tradition, it's not a tradition, it's a method such as Ngondo, always gets bogged down by Tibetan tradition. So I'm sure many of you, like try to make your refuge tree as how it is, how it's based on a painting that you bought from Nepal or something like that. So what I'm saying is, it's not limited like that. Perception of the Buddha and Bodhisattva is really a projection of your virtuous mind. Last night I was having a dinner with one of my Beijing friend, and he asked some really good questions. Things like, where is Shakyamuni Buddha now? Shakyamuni Buddha, the Prince Siddhartha. Is he kind of, like retired, and sitting somewhere kind of jobless, or, it's a very good thinking. And what we need to know is Shakyamuni, just like this plant, is another matrix of our mind. His own cousin, Devadatta, Shakyamuni came on earth, but Buddha, Bhagavat, the victorious one, never existed in his projection. So, those, this is what this is what the text says, that where there is a devotion, where there is aspiration, there is Buddha. And ultimately, as the Vajracchedika Sutra says, Buddha is beyond form and color and shape and age and gender and nationality, etc. And relatively, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they manifest according to your way of the way you project, and it works. I mean, China and India is just it's basically neighbor, but Avalokiteshvara just comfortably keeps on changing the sex, and it works. In India, he's a man, and in China, he's a woman. Fine, no problem with that. And I was just telling the other day, I observed some of this, Lantern festivals or whatever. There was all these shrines. They say it's a Taoist shrine, gods and goddesses and all that. I have to say, Avalokiteshvara has to be one of the cleverest bodhisattva. He actually managed to even sort of find himself inside the Taoist shrine. And, because of that, one cannot really sort of look down, or definitely not look down, but, think fishy things about Taoism from the Buddhist. Because there is a great bodhisattva sitting there among them. So just to tell you, the refuge tree, visualization, and having the confidence that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and especially the refuge tree in this case, is important. Now for the bodhicitta. In order to, invoking the bodhicitta mind is what can I say? It's beyond words. It's I think all of us, including myself, even though I'm teaching this, I think we are just not able to conceive the magnitude, the width, the breadth, the magnitude and the vastness of the bodhicitta. We just can't conceive this. This is why, we always sort of bypass the bodhicitta too much. It's just, that's just so not right. Please read again and again the Bodhicharya Avatara by Shantideva. This Bodhicharya Avatara is really, really special. It's just, more you read, it's like a Pandora box of bodhicitta. You know, it just comes out so much. You know, everybody has a different wish. Some wants to be the greatest writer, the others want to be the greatest musician, majority wants to be comfortable, wealthy, healthy. Then among all that, there are few, very handful few who has the wish to eliminate poverty or help the old and needy. Very handful, and they're so just so rejoiceable. You know, I really have big admiration for people like Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Just, you know, certain wish to, you know, solve a particular problems in the world. As Shantideva said, even wishing to cure headache of everyone on this earth is just amazing magnitude of, you know, this is such a great thinking. It's such a big aspiration. Just something so, you know, what do you call it? Beyond expression. Bodhicitta, to put it another way, is wishing not to have any wish to oneself. Even if it does happen, we wish that it will one way or another become something beneficial to the sentient being. And benefit, we are not talking about just giving them shelters or food or some medicine. Just uprooting their root of the ignorance, just enlighten them. This is the blood, heart, and the spine of the Buddha Dharma. And you know, Shantideva said, bodhicitta is the medicine for every ailment.
Amen.
Disease. That it is a solution to all the problems. You know, in the beginning, you know, long time ago, when I was reading this, it's like very poetic. Wow, what a beautiful thing to say! It is such a beautiful praise to the bodhicitta. But it's not just a praise; it is the reality. Because when you have no wish for yourself, you have no problem. All the problem that we have, again, you know, basically, I'm just reading Bodhicharya Avatara. Please, those who can, the younger generations, Bodhicharya Avatara, by all means, try to learn by heart the stanzas. It's just so amazing text, this one.
It
took 50 years for me to discover this. It's just so embarrassing. It says, what was it I was going to say? That it is, the bodhicitta is the solution to all the problems. And this is one thing I should say. You know, in many of our in our habit, in our head, we automatically, wow, bodhicitta is just undoable. It's just, you know, enlighten all sentient beings, and all, you know, like giving up my body, my finger, my, you know, my nose, my ears. I mean, giving up my wife, my husband, my stuff like this. Just, I think sometimes this is how we think, and that's because we are not approaching to the bodhicitta properly. I just remember, Shantideva said, again it slipped out of my mind. these are certain signs, I think, telling me that so and so much days and hours and months and years has gone.
Now,
Oh,
how so-
yes. Now I remember. Shantideva said, all the problems that we have in this world comes because we wish something for ourselves. All the bliss in this that we experience when we wish others happy. And it is so true. Shantideva also says, the moment you wish well, the moment, just a wish, the moment you wish, it's already very blissful. Already you have reaped the harvest. Bodhichitta. And bear in mind, please, those who are following the Vajrayana.
Bearing in mind.
Yeah, bear in mind, keep in mind. If you lose bodhicitta, tantrayana is basically as good as or as bad as any kinds of shamanist, black magic, evil rituals that which will bring you desire, anger, pride. Can I suggest you something? Every half an hour we think, not chant, huh? Chanting is always we end up becoming a chanter. You understand? Every half an hour, just for a split moment, I wish the others happy. Or I wish other to be free from pain. Or if you see somebody having a nice time, such as somebody really enjoying their size of lips, size of their lips, or the length of their finger, it doesn't matter the way their hair looked today, this morning. When you observe this, instead of envious, jealousy, and kind of, despise, may he or she never be apart from this joy. Just a split moment. Of course, you are back to, she's just hopeless. She's so vain, all of that. Jealousy, anger, of course we go back. And you will ask, isn't that useless? No, not at all. Not at all. Because truth and the nature at the end always prevails. Because real you is this loving, kind, compassionate, joyful person. So, like every half an hour, so to speak, don't end up buying I actually tried on my phone. I have an application that makes a sound, and I'm supposed to remember, my guru and stuff like that. I only used for a few months, and now I'm not even looking at it. This is great. This is those who wish to have it is for. Oh, how do I stop now? It's called Soto timer. I think it's the Zen practitioners. But I tell you, after a while, though, they become just a pain in the neck. So, but just disciplining yourself. Maybe beginning like tomorrow, maybe once a day, and then after a while, add more. It is impossible that it will not loosen your grip towards yourself. Clutch the strength of your grip towards yourself. It's impossible that it will not slowly sort of loosen it. And after a while, somebody peeing on your head, you don't really care. And by then, you have become a most powerful person. And most magnetizing person also, because actually everybody will feel comfortable because you are harmless. Sort of, this, usually our clinging to the self, the sort of, the energy of that exudes, I guess, and it's really making everybody insecure, because everybody has a, everybody's built like a porcupine, that animal with a, yeah. Anyway, to really invoke the bodhicitta, first, four immeasurable thoughts are emphasized, out of which the immeasurable thought of equanimity is advised first by Patrul Rinpoche here. Again and again, really try to think like your friend and your enemy or your whoever, stranger, they are equally loved one, equally strange one. And it is not some kind of arbitrary kind of religious thinking. It is very true. Like, let's say our enemy, someone who annoys you. Once upon a time, this someone who annoys you today happens to be the most loved one. And after a few maybe weeks or days or months, he might again make you happy. So really, there is all this thinking that this is my enemy, this is my friend, this is someone who I'm close, this is someone who I'm not close. All this is just useless. And then love, so important. Wishing everybody to be happy and have the cause of happiness. And then wishing to free beings from the suffering and the cause of the suffering, which is the compassion. Even you may not be able to read the whole Dzongsar Khentse Rinpoche, please, I urge you to read the section of the bodhicitta again and again, because this is where Patrul Rinpoche in his best. Patrul Rinpoche is sometimes even known as the manifestation or the incarnation of Shantideva. And I think so, because again, his text, Dzongsar Khentse Rinpoche, Words of My Perfect Teacher, this is a timeless text. And this text is something that more than anyone, the lamas like myself, tulkus, rinpoches like myself, we should be reading this. Because here, Patrul Rinpoche really gives us the so-called the teachers scoldings after scoldings. Compassion? Oh, wow, that's like Chandrakirti actually, before even paying homage to anyone else, paid homage to compassion. In the sutra, Buddha said, Sangye tobar debe chö mangbula labar miji, chö chigla labar jiwo, de kangshen nyingji chenpo, nyingji chenpo yobatela, sangye ji chö tamje langtidu yobatar juro. Buddha said, those who wishes to reach the Buddhahood, they don't have to practice many. They can only practice one, and that is compassion. For those who has the compassion, they have the Buddhahood in their palm. Once in Tibet, many people went to visit a great Kadampa master. And the Kadampas, the Tibet, they have to walk quite a distance. So they always ask, who's doing what. This is the visitors are the only source of the news. And then this Kadampa master called Geshe-Tempa, he, as I said, had a lot of visitors. So he's eager to ask all these questions. And he is very eager to, hear the news. So he says, okay, what's Putowa doing? Putowa is another great master. And then all these visitors, they say, Putowa is, teaching to hundreds and hundreds of people. And Geshe-Tempa said, wow, impressive, very impressive. That's really good. And then he said, okay, Puchungwa, what's he doing? Then the visitor said, Puchungwa is building all kinds of stupas and statues and temples. And he said the same thing, wow, that's really good, so impressive. And then he asked, what is Gönpapa doing? Gönpapa, the visitor said, Gönpapa, he's always meditating. And then Geshe Tenpa said, oh, that's really good, excellent, that's the thing to do. And then Geshe Tenpa said, okay, what's Kamlungpa doing? And then this visitor said, God only knows what he's doing. He, like he's wrapping his head all the time, and he's always crying. And then immediately Geshe Tenpa took off his hat, folded his palm together, and then he himself cried and said, oh yeah, that's it. He is practicing the Dharma. To purify our own defilements, the greatest destroyer of the defilement is also compassion. After 12 years of practicing Maitreya by Asanga, not even a sign, remember? Finally he gave up and he went to town, and on the road he saw this female dog just given to puppies, and he had just a tremendous compassion. So he cut his flesh and tried to save the babies, dog, everything. Maitreya appeared, and Asanga immediately hugged him and cried and complained, saying, after all these years, where have you been, Much as I've always been with you. It's just that right now, because of your compassion, you managed to purify all the defilements. That's why you are seeing me. Out of the 4 immeasurable thoughts, the immeasurable thought of joy is another thing that we should contemplate. Because generally, we human beings, we have this, we have lots of different kinds of emotion, but two things that we have, this pride and envy, jealousy, and especially the jealousy. Jealousy is just, it's a very ridiculous emotion. The others may make you poor and all of that, but jealousy really bankrupts you. Okay, and why jealousy and pride is so, and especially jealousy is so vicious, is because they are so undetectable. Very, very, very difficult to spot jealousy. And yet, jealousy really brings the other emotions so fast. So this is why I was saying, as I was saying earlier, if you see somebody having a whatever, something that you wish to have generally, instead of, feeling jealous, may this person have this joy and never be apart from it. It's a really very important training mind. Have it, contemplate on that. And as Patrul Rinpoche so beautifully conclude here, he says that actually so-called 4 immeasurable thoughts can be practiced in one go or one essence, and that is to be kind, kindness. Aung San Suu Kyi recently was interviewed by some, journalist, and I was reading. And one journalist asked, what is love? And I was so impressed with her answer. She said, the real love is when the love is accompanied with kindness. What an amazing, insight. Atisha Dipamkara had a, like sometimes his hand, he has pain in his hand. And he would ask, sometimes he would put his hand on Drum Tempa's lap. Drum Tempa is his student. And say, please, Drum Tempa, bless my hand. This is his student. And tell him, because I know you are so kind. Because you are kind, you can bless. So kindness has that kind of power. Atisha Dipamkara, instead of asking people, how are you? He would ask, have you been kind? And his main advice is also, please be kind. When asked who his favorite guru, because he has many gurus, he said, all my gurus are equal. They have great realization. They are all equal. But Dipamkara from Indonesia was the kindest. Dipamkara from Indonesia is one whom he owed the most. And when asked why, because it is from this master he actually learned kindness. So please contemplate on kindness while I read this.